We're back.
Welcome to No Direction, the Pathfinder news, reviews, and interviews podcast, brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/No Direction. I'm your host, Ryan Costello.
And I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param.
I'm just going to admit that I thought I really nailed that first intro, and I'm going to try and recapture the magic when I say that our guest this week is one of our huge guests. He's one of the people that we love to have on, and he's been on the show many times over the years, over the decade. And yet, how much do we really know about that man? That Bulmahn.
Another laugh. I'm a mystery.
We're going to unravel that mystery
but
today.
No more.
Thanks for joining us, Jason. It is always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Always a joy to be on with you guys.
Well, we're going to play it a little more casual today, and we are going to start with something completely not gamer related.
Ooh.
I believe, I may be wrong, but I believe you have an architecture background. So walk us through what young Jason Bulmahn applying to architecture school was like, and what he expected you to be doing at this point in your life.
I never thought I'd be in the game business, right? I mean, that was like a pipe dream. When you're a kid, and I wanted to be a fireman, and then I wanted to be an astronaut, and then I wanted to draw comic books, and then I was like, and throughout all that, I was a gamer, right? I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I grew up with Gen Con in my backyard, and the city is filled with gamers. And there was a period of time where I actually had a wait list just to get into my games. From those early ages, it never really crossed my mind that I would be into game design. That just never really connected. So I went to high school, and I was focusing on drawing and painting and sculpting. I went to an art high school, and I realized I'm not sure that would ever make me any money. So when I went to college, I went in for engineering at first. I always loved math, but engineering was too much math. It was more math than I wanted. And from there, I kind of settled out on architecture. And I had always had a love of drawing, and I had a love of science and math. And those two kind of meet in architecture. You kind of end up designing spaces for people to live in, and kind of trying to make beautiful things. But fundamentally, you're doing an awful lot of calculations and math and kind of boring, structural drawings and diagrams and stuff. And I actually, really enjoyed that. And I got into that and graduated, with a degree in architecture. And from there, I got a job in the industry. I worked for a small firm in Milwaukee, and we had bits and pieces of a lot of really big projects in the city. Like the Brewers' new stadium, Miller Park. Well, it's not really new anymore, but it was new then. I actually designed bits and pieces of that. And whenever you fly into Milwaukee Airport, I actually designed or helped design one of the concourses there. So whenever I visit the folks back home, it's always kind of weird seeing bits and pieces of things that I built models of and did drawings of made reality. So I kind of always thought, hey, this is my career. This is what I'm going to do. And I was on the path to doing that. And then gaming kind of took over. It kind of Kool-Aid manned into the scene and just took over. And I kind of threw that all away and ran to Seattle to make games for a living. And I haven't looked back.
I guess I was just always in the impression you got the degree but never actually worked as an architect. You've actually designed building. You've influenced your city. That's cool.
Yeah, I actually had there's a fair number of buildings in Milwaukee that I can point to that I had a hand in. I was only part of a team. I was a junior member of the firm, so I wasn't designing a lot of things all by myself. I had some small projects, but I had bits and pieces of some of the biggest buildings in the city. And that was a lot of fun. It was really rewarding work. I have to admit there was a lot of kind of drudgery. There comes points in times where, instead of designing, the bar at, the big amphitheater in town, you're giving people new windows and doors around the airport, kind of repeating the same work over and over again. In fact, that's it's funny, that project. So there's a story here. We were working on a gigantic project. I mean, it was a multi-year project, and I had been working on it for maybe a year and a half. And basically, our job was to give new doors and windows and like chimney dampers and stuff to people who lived near the airport, because the airport had grown so much that it had become a noise problem for people who live there. And they sued, and the government decided, okay, we're going to give you all new doors and windows to help sound insulate your homes against these airplanes. And the thing is, this was giant subdivisions of buildings that were all identical, and we had to do drawings of all of them. But because they were identical, the drawing was actually really easy, right? I mean, I would get done with a day's worth of work in about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And it was a government job, and we had to bill the hours. So I literally just had to sit there and stare at the drawings. I mean, we couldn't do anything else. I couldn't bill other hours, and I couldn't not bill those hours. The contract, government work is weird like that. Saving money actually hurt us, so we were incentivized not to do it. It was terrible. But because of that, I did a lot of work for Living Greyhawk. And I spent a great deal of my time kind of noodling with the Living Greyhawk campaign, and at that point in time, I had gotten kind of asked to help manage Wisconsin as a region. So I spent a great deal of time doing all this work for Living Greyhawk that eventually became the resume that ended up causing me to leave architecture entirely. So my start kind of came from the fact that I was working on a giant, boring project that gave me the time to kind of work on gaming almost full time, even though I wasn't really getting paid for it at the time. So yeah, it's kind of weird how that happened. Because I'd been a gamer since I was a kid, and I went to my first Gen Con when I was 11. My dad dropped me off there by myself. Actually, it was me and a friend of mine. But, we're both like 11 or 12 years old. And he drops us off at this huge game convention and hands me $20 and says, see you at 6, right? And I'm alone. I'm 11. I can't imagine doing that these days. But, if I had a kid, I wouldn't drop him off at a show if he's 11 by himself and just be like, see you later. So, yeah, it was phenomenal. And, growing up in that environment, I got heavily involved in the RPGA, and that's how I ended up applying for Living Greyhawk. And I always thought it was just kind of a hobby. It was something for fun I did on the side. That turned out to get a bit more involved.
Now,
I think the most unbelievable part of that story is that $20 lasts you to a whole day at a gaming convention.
Oh, beat me to the line.
I think that first Gen Con, my one-day badge cost $8.
Whoa.
It was super cheap back then, maybe 10. But it wasn't a lot. This was like 87, I think, back when it was at the Mecca Convention Center in the middle of downtown Milwaukee. And, you went and bought your badge for the day, and you had to buy tickets from these corkboard racks with little hangers that had the tickets on it for events. And I was there all day looking at stuff, and I played only one game the entire day. I was too terrified to sit down and play with adults. I couldn't do it. But there were these giant diorama boxes. If you ever went to those early Gen Cons, you would have seen them. They were these huge, they must have been 3 foot on a side and about a foot deep. And they were just wooden boxes, but inside they had crafted this amazingly articulate terrain setup for a D&D adventure. And they were really newbie-friendly, and that was the only event I played, and it was the most kind of magical experience, right? I had a bunch of terribly painted pewter minis at home that we, fought on the dining room table with. And this was this gorgeous diorama box that we got to play in with, ice caverns and bubbling magma and stuff, and it was just amazing. And I was hooked. I was like, I have to come back and play this next year. And I haven't missed a Gen Con since that one. Wow. I've been going every year since '87, and it all started with just that. So, eventually, I grew up, I did architecture, and when on a lark, I just kind of applied for a job at Wizards of the Coast, and I didn't get it. I came real close. They flew me out for an interview, and it was down between me and one other candidate, and they hired the other guy, and I was kind of crushed, but at the same time, they were hiring a number of people, and they hired somebody from Paizo, and I had known Eric Mona from my Living Greyhawk days, and he knew I was the second in line for the job they had just hired, so he was like, well, you must be qualified. Do you want this job that just came open? I said, I'll be there in 2 weeks. So, yeah, it's been kind of a roller coaster ever since. So
now we've got a couple of questions from chat, which is a good time for us to remind the audience that No Direction podcast is filmed live in front of a Twitch audience every other Wednesday, and then every other Tuesday is the Starfinder version. If you
I'm not getting any audio, so I'm not sure what's going on.
You can't hear me?
Jason, can you not hear Param? You can hear me? Nobody. Huh.
Well, this is a perfectly lovely situation.
I suppose it's
right,
possible I accidentally turned down my volume. Hold on.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that was me. Sorry. New headset.
This is a cursed
Sorry.
episode. It is
That was
absolutely
all me.
cursed.
I accidentally turned down the volume. This is a brand new headset, and I don't know where the volume control
Oh.
is. Sorry, that's all me.
Oh, goodness.
After I stopped talking, I have no idea what anyone said after that point. So.
All right, so I said this is a good time to remind the audience that No Direction is filmed in front of a live Twitch audience every other Wednesday. If you have any questions at all, type them up in chat. We'll be taking questions from chat and asking them to our guest. And we'll start with this one from Nice Piano Man, because it's on topic. How do you think that your ranks in Profession Architect has influenced your game design?
I think there's... Whenever I'm at work and someone asks a question that even tangentially is related to architecture, I'm like, yes, I can finally make some money out of that. I can finally get use out of that $40,000 degree I have. It doesn't help me too much, but it does let me draw really good maps. I got my degree at the very end of the period of time where the school that I went to still taught drafting. Like if I had started just 2 years later, they wouldn't have bothered with that at all. It switched over entirely to CAD, so I wouldn't have gotten any of those skills. And I'd come from an art background, so I already had a lot of drawing skills, and I really wanted to draw comics when I was in high school. So I had a lot of drawing skills, but architecture turned it into, kind of mean mapping machines. So I do really enjoy drawing maps. I'm pretty good at it, I think. I think I get the most bang for my buck whenever I'm asked to draw a map in the office. Mm-hmm. I'm always pleased when the cartographer basically brings back my map and it looks almost exactly like what I gave them, just in color. So yeah, that's what I call a success. I'm like, all right, yes, I did this to professional standard. So I think that's probably the most I get out of it. I think the other thing is architecture taught me to appreciate space. And that helps me whenever I'm building an encounter or building a combat. I kind of approach it from the angle of what makes it an interesting space, what makes it an interesting dynamic place for you to fight in. Designing an encounter that gives you cool, evocative imagery is something that isn't what my architecture professor was thinking of when he said design interesting spaces. I need a good place to hide the adiugs. That wasn't what he was thinking of. But I think it's kind of turned out that way. So I think that's probably the most I get out of it.
So if we had some listeners that were wanting to draw more interesting game maps for their spaces, for their Otyugs, but don't want to spend $40,000 on a degree that they might not get to use, any tips for them?
Yeah. I think the best thing to do is always start out by kind of, answering the basic questions, right? Obviously it's like, where are the players coming from? What are they facing? Making sure the room has enough space to have the fight that you want to have. I think the biggest mistake a lot of cartographers can get trapped in when designing spaces for their encounters is like, oh, it's a 30 by 30 room and there's 4 large creatures in it. Well, 4 large creatures can't fit in that room, right? And not to mention the player characters. So that's kind of the first pitfall. But once you get beyond those, it starts turning into, how can I make this encounter interesting? How can I funnel characters and monsters in interesting ways? How can I create situations where there are points of tension and those tensions have release when monsters die or move away. And how can I create an encounter that forces the players to think a bit more than just like, oh, I'm just going to run up and attack the guy. Well, if there's a line of burning coals across the middle of the room, and off on the side there's these series of curtains that you have to kind of push your way through, and until you do, you don't really know what's behind them. And maybe on the far side of the room there's a brazier that's letting off all this smoke, and there might be bad guys behind that, right? Think about your encounter from the angle of, how can I add more to this than just more monsters? How can I add features and objects that the players immediately go, oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that shovel that's next to the coal pit, and I'm going to shovel up some coals and fling them at the bad guys, right? Giving them tools. It isn't just about obstacles to overcome. It's also about opportunities to add. And if you can come up with cool, interesting things that the players kind of immediately latch onto and go, I'm going to go do that. It might not be the best decision, but it's going to look cool as hell. Then you're on the right path.
I can definitely relate to that, because I usually play warriors, and warriors will walk into any room, the exact same warrior in every single room. There's not like spells that mix things up. So It's, once I'm in the room, what's in this room that I can do that's unique from any other encounter I've had?
Yeah. And I think that's good for all of the characters, even the spellcasters, right? If they're looking at, oh, there's a whole bunch of curtains in my way and I can't see through them. Well, I'm just going to throw my ray of fire through all of them just to get them to burn away so that we can see through them, right? Giving everybody kind of interesting tactical choices, is the heart of a good adventure.
So, by the way, before we take another question from the audience, I just want to clear something up that I probably should have mentioned in the introduction. Yeah. It wasn't Jason asking us not to ask 2E questions or like anything like that, or like it wasn't your mandate to us that we make this about you. This was our idea. Things had gotten a little testy during some of the playtest forums, and we were like, let's remind people, Jason is a human being like the rest of us. He has an architecture degree, and actually we've had some really interesting comments in chat about people who know architects and are relating to things you've said. And the reason that our first question from the audience was an architect degree was just, it was the natural flow of things. But we do have several 2E questions in here. Are you okay if we just kind of bounce back and forth?
If you want to throw some of those in. I mean, I think, we've seen the 2E boards get a little testy now and again, and that's kind of to be expected, right? I'll be honest. It was well within what we expected to see. Because, well, to be honest, change is scary. And I'm not going to tell you that it's not, right? I mean, a lot of people have been playing this game for there are people out there who Pathfinder is their first ever game experience. And to tell them, hey, we're about to change your game, that's scary, right? And you can hear things that, like, you don't know about it. You don't have all the details yet. And that can be frightening. And, I think where we're coming from is, we have such wonders to show you, right? And I don't mean that in the Hellraiser kind of way. I mean, there's a lot of cool things in this game that we want to show you. And it's really hard right now for us to share all of that with you. We can't just throw it all out there, because piecemeal, it's too much. There's so much to the new version of the game. So we're trying to build on concepts and be like, okay, here's one piece, here's the next piece, here's the next piece, here's the next piece. That way, as we start introducing more and more complex concepts, they make sense. We could have thrown the fighter feat out there on day one, but if we did so, you wouldn't have quite understood what it even meant and why that was even good. I think it's always interesting to me when we post up like class blogs right now, and people are like, well, that doesn't sound very good. And I'm like, oh my God, you have no idea how good that actually is in the way that things play together and the way that the pieces interlock. Some of these things are ridiculously fun to play with. And but it's really hard to make that clear until all the rules are out there. So right now, I think one of the big things we're just trying to struggle with is just how do we get information out there in kind of a timely fashion, but also in one that we can make sure we can talk about. Like, we're not ready to discuss the whole game yet. As a matter of fact, we're still working on it. I was in the office today trying to decide what parts to trim and cut to fit in the book. Right? The book hasn't gone to the printer yet, so we're still working on it. We're still changing things. We had this big discussion about various trait tags today that we had to figure out what was going in where. And those discussions are really important for us to have, so our bandwidth to kind of interact with fans is a little limited right now. And I'm afraid of spoiling too much, because we can't really talk to people about it and explain everything about it just yet. But when we hit August, we'll be ready to go and everything will be set. So, but you said you had some questions, so let's do some questions.
All right. JP Mueller JPW Mueller. He's got 4 questions, and they become less and less full sentences as he goes. So this will be fun. Number 1 is straightforward. It's when's the next blog, and what's it about?
Sure. So the next blog is on Friday. We're trying to do blogs. We're guaranteeing a blog every Monday and Friday. And we're going to try and hit Wednesday as often as we can. But we're kind of saving Wednesday to do like art blogs and other types of blogs. I think the blog for Friday is going to be more about ancestries. I think we're going to look at gnomes and halflings. That's what we're looking at this Friday. And I think we might even talk a little bit about how ability scores are put together, because we've been teasing around that in the ancestries, and I think Friday we're going to talk about it a bit more in detail. So that's expect that on Friday.
All right, I am a gnome homer, so I'm looking forward to that one.
Nice.
Next question: playtest archetypes. What's up there?
Playtest archetypes, huh? There are some, yeah. So I actually just did an interview with Game Informer where I kind of leaked some stuff about archetypes. So I'm going to leave that to them to be their spoiler. There will be some archetypes in the book. They are primarily there for us to make sure that the concept works and that the execution works. It's not the full suite of them. It's not all the ones we intend to be in the final version of the book. It's more of a test and a proof of concept. I think the way that the archetypes work is going to be familiar to everybody. So I'm not too terribly concerned about them as a concept, but they should be really fun and exciting. We've had a lot of fun building them, and it's really refreshing to us to be able to incorporate them into the core of the game, right? Archetypes have always worked well for us, but they were always, from minute one, they were a thing that got bolted on. They didn't exist when the game started. And they're a good bolt-on, and they work just fine, but the new version of the game really allows us to kind of re-examine that and make them a holistic part of the game experience. So we're really excited about it. We have a blog scheduled to talk about those, but I don't think it's for a little bit. We got a lot of other topics we need to cover before we talk about how archetypes plug into all of that.
Yeah, I have a lot of follow-up questions about archetypes personally, but I understand that there's almost no point in asking them. We'll just we'll wait until that blog post is revealed, and then we'll have somebody on to talk about them.
I'm going to have so many questions in August. At Gen Con, man, I'm going to be there with excuse me, I have this notepad, 500 pages. Let's go.
Yeah, we might have to schedule you guys like a full 2-hour session or something, and just get it out of the way. We'll have to find a place better than just that hallway outside the exhibit hall, too. We'll find a quiet room where we can actually sit down and talk.
Indeed.
All right, Mueller's next question is, that Oracle teaser in the Alchemist blog, ...
I had to go ask Stephen what he meant by that. Actually, I was like, what are you talking about?
Our audience is paying really, really close attention to small details.
It's scary. Like, I will say a thing on Twitter, and then it will appear in a giant blog on EN World the next day. And I'm like, what's going on? This is really weird. So I have to be really careful what I say. The Oracle the Oracle is not in the playtest rulebook. I'm just going to settle that discussion right now. It's not a surprise or anything like that. But there are some very interesting implications that you will see play out once we get a little bit later in the process, and that's kind of what that's alluding to. So I don't want to spoil any more than that. I have a sneaky suspicion Stephen will be like, "Oh, don't ruin my fun," and I'm like, "Okay."
If the Oracle was in the rule book as a surprise, we really should have seen it coming.
Well, the Oracle saw it coming. I don't know about the rest of it. So.
And his final question is, 4 spell lists? Question mark. Have you stated anywhere there's only going to be 4 spell lists?
That has been stated, and that came out on the original preview and again in our Eric Mona interview.
Oh, that's right. So it's funny because I end up playing kind of. Am I being baited into confirming a thing that was only half mentioned, or was this actually talked about? Yeah, there's 4 spell lists. That's interesting.
That is interesting.
It is really fascinating that there are 4 spell lists. Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Next question. That one I'm going to leave alone.
Yeah,
we got a good reveal for that. So and it'll all work out. I think everybody.
Did we lose Ryan?
No, can you hear me?
Okay, good. You're back.
Okay.
I think there are some folks who have guessed the direction we're heading already, so it's not too hard to figure out kind of the thrust of that. But I'll leave it a secret.
Spell feats to get more spells. Oh, sorry, that was supposed to be an absurd idea, and now you've gotten so quiet and shifty-eyed.
No, no.
This one from Gentle Giant Co. Is an interesting question. I'm going to re-paraphrase it, and because I like where it's going. Have you, from the feedback you've received, have you already made any changes to the playtest?
So, that's a tricky discussion. I don't think we've made changes. I think what we've done is we've made notes for things to pay attention to when the playtest actually goes live. I think there have been a few spots where we went, oh, maybe that is a little bit weird, and we kind of reevaluated a thing. But I don't know that we've made changes, because most of the information we've given is kind of just a glimpse of a rules topic. So if you're looking through a keyhole and you see something blue, you go, oh, blue, I don't like blue. But then we're like, well, it's not actually blue. It's a blueberry, right? Or something else. It's a terrible analogy. I'm going to ditch it. Anyway, but the point is, we're only giving you a sliver of the information. So a lot of the feedback is passionate, and in some cases it's heading in the right direction, but it doesn't always have the full picture. So sometimes it's asking for a thing that we're like, well, actually for 6 or 7 reasons that wouldn't work, or we've actually already solved it with this or this, and we just haven't talked about it yet. Once again, it's just a nature of kind of how we're building the knowledge base of what the new game is, as opposed to just kind of dropping huge swaths of it, which is beyond what we can do right now. So yeah, I don't think we've made any changes necessarily, but we certainly have been taking note of things that give people pause, and then we're going to revisit those when the playtest actually goes live in August.
Sorry, you said give it pause, and now I can only think of a werewolf pun. But it's a complicated werewolf pun, so I don't even want to get into it, but I can't not mention it.
Well, yeah, all right.
All right. This is a callback to the architecture. Do you have a favorite encounter that uses... what's your favorite example of an encounter that takes advantage of space in a kind of cool, dynamic way?
So actually, let me think. I've done a lot over the years in my own design that has tried to kind of utilize that. I think one of the very first adventures I wrote was in Dungeon 114. As a matter of fact, that was my first published work. And inside was a crypt, a tomb called the Tomb of Blood Ever Flowing. And there was this giant space that you came in from the top and made your way down, spiraling around the outside before being deposited on the floor. And on one side, there was this huge statue with blood pouring down it into this giant pool. So it made this really kind of cool visual scene that you could picture as you moved in. I think I also really enjoyed a lot of the dungeon mapping from Expedition to the Ruins of Greyhawk. We built that off of the kind of not really accurate Ruins of Greyhawk adventure, but I got to take the entire Tower of War dungeons and basically recast them. So there were a bunch of encounters in there that and maps in there that had these really cool kind of setups, but I got to take them in, like there was a giant earthquake and it shifted some of them, and one of these giant statues fell over, so I got to draw all these giant statue bits and everything like that. It was a lot of fun and made for some really dynamic encounters. Like in the very bottom, there was this giant pyramid that you could go underneath, and the earthquake had kind of shattered it, so there was like this kind of crazy three-dimensional encounter where you could be up on the pyramid, and there were all these arrow demons that were firing arrows at everybody, and it was really, really tough with this giant statue that was from some ancient, like, Errol Otis drawing or something from down there. It was great. It was fantastic. So, I generally try and play with the environment that I'm given as best I can. I always try to make sure that, there's interesting pits or, things to move around or levers to pull or blocks to shove and things like that. So I've certainly had my fair share of opportunity to make a lot of those things happen.
Uh-oh.
In chat, and Lone Dwarf 14 is upset that you're spoiling it.
Okay,
Can you
Ryan,
hear me?
Reconnect. While he is
All right.
while he is reconnecting, Jason,
Yeah.
we'll go ahead and take another question.
Sure.
And all these questions are jokes.
Hold on, I've parsed out the question. First of all, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I was saying that multiple people in chat were very excited about this adventure when you started talking about it, and Lone Dwarf 14 is upset that you were spoiling it.
Oh, is this Expedition or Ruins of Blood Everflowing? I don't know. One of them.
Actually, they were talking about Mad God's Key.
Oh yeah, Mad God's Key. That's where the Tomb of Blood Everflowing was. Yeah, from
Okay.
Dungeon 114.
Justin
actually, I don't know.
Scooter.
I don't know if you can see it, but I actually have the art for it in
Oh.
my office here. The original piece is right up there on the wall from the cover.
Ooh.
Kind of make that
Cool.
off in the background there. Yeah, let's make sure I'm okay. There we are. All better.
All right,
Yeah, this
Justin
is my-
Scooter has a... Oh, go ahead, sorry.
And this is my home office, by the way.
It is a very impressive home
Funky
office.
Oh, it's not bad. I'm growing into it. I've got all my reference books behind me, and then all my game design books that I've slowly cobbled together a library of, and that's filled with a lot of fun stuff.
Would you ever consider writing a game design book?
Whew, maybe. I think I still feel like I have so much to learn. Like I read other people's books, and I'm like, wow, that's a really good point, and it makes me a better game designer. So. These days, I spend a lot of time reading through some of the books you actually see right up above me here. A lot of these books up here, most of them are game design books, talking about either the history of gaming or the process of designing games, or theories and psychological theories about fun and how that works. There's a couple other random pieces in here, like standard chess openings, D&D for dummies, and things like that. But there's some really good books up there. There's some definitely some stuff that's worth reading if you're interested in game design.
Any specific one you'd shout out to?
I think my favorite is actually, let's see, this one. This is The Art of Game Design by Jesse Schell. This is a great book. It's called The Book of Lenses is the subtitle. And basically what it is it's a book that examines different ways that you can look at a game design. So kind of, look at your game from the lens of experience. So what experience do you want people to have? And examine it just from its output. Like how is the game played, and how do you expect people to experience it? Here's the lens of cooperation, things like that. It also is just kind of a great way of examining how games are constructed and how people approach games, and why people play games and what they get out of it, and kind of helps you better understand your audience and how you turn a framework of rules and structures into a play experience and something that everyone can enjoy.
There's an app of that book. I have that book,
Really?
but as an app, yeah.
So is it just
The
a
deck
bunch
of
of
lenses.
lenses?
Yeah.
Okay.
Emotion,
Yeah.
essential experience, venue, surprise.
Yeah,
And
so they've
chapters?
got. They also have a deck of cards that's around here somewhere. That is each lens on a card, and you can basically shuffle them and deal a handful at your game, and approach it from all of those, just to give yourself an interesting new perspective if you're stuck, which
So
I find
then-
kind of useful. But
The app
there's
is
a
called
tons of
Game Design, a deck of lenses, so this must be
Yeah.
the cards.
that's probably the cards in app form. That wouldn't surprise me. The book itself is frequently used in colleges as the game design textbook. So I can't recommend it highly enough. It's kind of expensive, but I think it's come down in price recently. Also, there's a lot of great books out there. Like Wolfgang and Kobold Press have published a swarm of books with great essays in them about game design that are all worth reading. So there's a lot of great stuff out there. A lot more than there was just 10 years ago. There was almost nothing. But in the past decade, there's really been a lot of great books on game design.
Now, speaking
Justin Sluter has a question. Oh, go ahead, Pam.
Speaking of great books, Lone Dwarf wants to know what novels or writers have influenced you the most.
I think there have been different phases. I think when I started out, there was one book. I mean, this is cliche, but the first fantasy novel I ever read was assigned to me in a class, and it was The Hobbit. And that book made me fall in love with fantasy. So I think that was really influential in very, very young me. Like I think I read that when I was like 9 or 10 or something. So I think that's the book that kind of got me into fantasy, which then led me into gaming, which led me to where I am today. That said, the books that influenced kind of my career more, actually going back to the launch of the first edition of Pathfinder, in that year during the alpha and beta leading to the final, I took it upon myself to reread a lot of the classics of fantasy, the things that inspired Gary. So I read Moorcock, I read Liber, I read a lot of Vance, and I just kind of wandered through classic fantasy to kind of get a sense of where they were coming from, why those things influenced them. So I wanted to see how those things influenced them and how that influenced the early game. That way I could kind of understand how to take some of the pieces apart and put them back together, just to get the feel and the genre right. So I did a lot of that. I read an awful lot of Dying Earth. I read a lot of Farford and Grey Mouser, which are kind of the prototypical adventurers. If you haven't read Farford and Grey Mouser, I highly recommend it. They're delightful books. They're a lot of fun, and those two just get into ridiculous misadventures. But you really can kind of see the model for how early adventurers were supposed to work, right? It's like you go on an adventure, you do whatever crazy quest you're there to do, you get paid, you go back to town, you spend it on ale, and you wake up in a gutter and realize you're poor, and then go back out and adventure some more because you're poor. And those two are just the quintessential kind of rogue pair, although I suppose Farford may be more of a barbarian. But anyway, it's a delightful story. So I think a lot of those influenced my early design, just because you can't help but get the kind of infectious energy from some of those early fantasy novels. And so I think a lot of those influenced kind of the first edition of Pathfinder. Since then, I've been all over the place, reading fantasy, science fiction, kind of modern, old. I'm trying to round out a lot of my classic science fiction. I went on that kick when I was working on bits of Starfinder in the early days. So I try and keep my reading moving along. Right now, I'm still just trying to get through the rest of The Expanse. So that's where I'm at right now.
Well, speaking of The Expanse, you mentioned
yeah.
these were all of the books that influenced the first generation of game writers. What do you think is current, modern right now that's going to influence the future generation of game designers?
Whew. Yeah, the field has broken out so much, right? There's so much material now. I mean, I suppose there's always been a lot of books and novels and stuff, but these days it just seems like they're everywhere. And I think the big change right now is that a lot of them are going really big. They're turning into cultural phenomenons, right? It wouldn't surprise me if 10 years from now we start seeing some really gritty political, fantasy role-playing games because of the popularity of Game of Thrones, right? I just think those things can't help but inspire some people to go, yeah, I want something more like that. So it wouldn't surprise me if you see some of that. I mean, otherwise, you can go in so many different directions. And part of that's really great, too, because we've seen such a explosion in diversity and setting and writing and theme and concept, right? I mean, we're starting to see, and it's always been there. I just don't think we've been aware of it. But fantasy literature that isn't Eurocentric, right? That you're seeing, more and more material like that hit mainstream or hit kind of more modern takes. So, the sky's the limit.
Do you think Afrofuturism is going to take off with Black Panther's popularity?
Oh, it wouldn't surprise me. I think the vision in that movie is fantastic, and there is such a deep mind there for someone to explore. I think you have to have the right sort of mindset and approach to it. So it'll be interesting to see what people come up with. Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Question from Justin Sluter. What is your...
Oh, excuse me.
And we have got a robot again. Ryan, can you hear me?
I'll be back.
All this is getting edited out.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
this is getting edited out.
You can come back.
Oh, goodness. Well, let's see.
Hi.
Domo arigato.
Oh, you're calling me a robot.
I see where I went there. Yeah. Right.
All right, a couple of seconds of silence, so I have an edit point. And we're good.
And actually, Jason, I should bring up, it's 9:30, which is technically the hour we asked for. I think it's only been about 40 minutes of content. Are you...
Hey, go.
We're good?
We can go where we need to go.
All right. Justin Sluter wants to know your dumbest phobia, and he says spiders and spiked armor is not a valid answer.
I don't like spiders. I mean, that's well known fact. Spiked armor was just a funny joke. That's just a silly joke from back in the day. But yeah, no, it is true. I don't like spiders at all. I don't have much in the way of phobias outside of that, to be honest. Like I'm not afraid of too many things. I think I've got a couple of weird things that I don't like content wise. Like I'm not big into like serial killer storylines, but that has to do with growing up in Milwaukee in the era of Jeffrey Dahmer. Yeah, I don't really have much in the way of phobias. Like I'm not bothered by scorpions or centipedes or snakes or rats or anything like that. My biggest phobia is running out of good scotch. So I mean, that's that's about as scary as things get for me.
Lone Dwarf, and note the name of the person asking the question, has a follow-up to that saying, aren't you a dwarf hater?
Dwarf hater? No, I love dwarves. Actually, I think dwarves don't get enough love in the game. Dwarf is one of my favorite races. Ancestries now. Yeah, I think dwarves are fantastic. Actually, I'm really excited about dwarves in the new version of the game. We've done some things for them that is pretty exciting. I think some of that comes from Wayne's art. Wayne has done a great job recasting some of our characters and making them a bit more unique to us. But the way dwarves look is awesome. Some of the art I think we've previewed some of it already, looks really exciting. So yeah, no, I love dwarfs. Dwarf is my go-to. So I'm thinking of James. James and Eric aren't the biggest dwarf lovers.
A few people in chat are saying it's James Jacobs. He's thinking.
Yeah, no, it's not me. I love dwarfs.
Now that you touched on something that I'm curious about, and this is my own PF2 question, meta question.
Sure.
The art style and some of the visualizations, we have a very secure concept. Pathfinder has kind of established itself what it means to look like Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Are there going to be a lot of big changes for what the look of Pathfinder is?
Well, I mean, I think Wayne is doing all of the art for the playtest rulebook. So, and Wayne's style is so attached to Pathfinder now that I don't think you have too much to worry about. I think mostly what we're doing is trying to push things a little bit more to make them a little bit more uniquely ours. So dwarves got a bit of a broader bridge of their nose and a bit more of a heavy brow. And we kind of added an art styling to them that they all carry these clan daggers with them, which is a dagger that they were given at birth to denote their membership in the clan. But they still look like dwarves. If you played first edition Pathfinder, you're going to go, oh yeah, that's a dwarf. None of the races you're going to look at and go, what is that? I don't know what that is, right? So I think what we're doing is just kind of refining the look. I think the place that we're being the most experimental is with some of the monsters, where we're trying to kind of find a look that's more uniquely ours. So we'll see how that plays out. A lot of that's still kind of in development. So, but the stuff that I've seen thus far is amazing. And Sarah Robinson, our graphic design director, has been doing a great job working with Wayne to make sure that the look of Pathfinder is kind of unique and especially evocative of our brand, of our story.
Zerg Titan 99 has a very specific question. Do bards still use, or has that changed?
Repeat that again.
And we've lost Ryan.
Yeah, no, sorry, I didn't get it.
Oh my goodness, this is. My apologies to you, Jason. This has
No, it's
been.
fine.
Yeah. All right, Param, I am cutting and pasting the curated notes into our shared Google Doc.
Okay.
Next time I go silent, do you think you could just start going down the list if we're looking for content still?
Indeed, but how am I gonna? How are you gonna know when you go silent?
When I start talking and you can't hear me.
Okay.
Because I can hear you guys just fine.
Where is this? Where are we at here? Right. Okay.
I've been deleting the ones that have been asked.
All right. All right. So a couple seconds of time. Silence. So Zergton99 asks, I guess, do bards still use music rounds, or has that been changed? That's a really specific question.
That is a really specific question, and one that I don't think I'm going to answer quite yet. It is a little different than the way it worked before, but I think it's cleaner than it was before. But you don't have anything to worry about. You're going to be able to use. You're going to be able to do your bardic performance plenty in the new game, so I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Okay, I like this one from Gentle Giant Company. Asks, what's the one thing you wanted to change most in PF1 and the one thing you wanted to change the least?
So I think the one that, when we... So it's funny when people ask me, when did PF2 start? And I said, well, the day PF1 went to the printer. Because... there's always things that you look at the game and go, I wish we could have done something about that. We just didn't have the time, or we didn't want to take apart the game in a way that would have allowed us to fix that. And I think for PF1, one of the biggest things that we knew was a problem, and we just knew we couldn't change because it required us to unmake the system, was the kind of fundamental math system behind the game, right? If you looked at the way like saving throws in particular scaled up as you went up in level, you ended up actually getting worse at the saving throw you were bad at as you went up in level. Like at first level, it's like, oh, that saving throw's at a 2 and this one's at a 0. Well, the difference between those two is 2. It's not that much. But at high levels, it's a difference of like 5 or 6. And you end up in a situation where it's like, I think I got worse at that as I went up in level. I didn't get better. I didn't become a more competent hero. I became a less competent hero in certain spots. It was always very counterintuitive, and it's the thing that a lot of people latch on to, even if they didn't quite understand why, of the thing in the game that didn't quite work the way that they thought it did. I mean, I think a lot of people think, oh, high-level play is kind of busted. It's messed up, and you have to jump through so many hoops to cover up the math problems, and you're basically forced into doing certain things. Like you have to get a cloak of resistance, you have to have a ring of protection, you have to have all these stat boost items, and all of that is just to cover up for the fact that the game has some math formulas that break once they're scaled to a certain point. So as a result, that was always a thing that we were like, man, we wish we could fix that, but we just couldn't. Yeah, I think that would probably be the top of my list of things that, we were like, boy, we sure do wish we could fix that. So when it came for second edition, that was one of the first things we decided, yep, that's the thing we have to fix. We cannot let that go into second edition. So we're really happy with how that works now. Now it's if you're not that great at, say, a saving throw, you're just as not great at it at high level than you are at low level, but you're not worse than you were before, right? You don't become actively less good than at a thing, which is important to the way the game feels, the way the game plays, right? You become better and better at the things you're supposed to be good at, but you don't inherently get worse at the things that you're supposed to be bad at. You're as bad, but you're not growing ever worse as you go up in level. It's kind of counterintuitive to experiential play. So.
Yukujin51 wants to know, if you can map any location in Galarian, what would it be?
The Starstone Cathedral. But I don't think I have enough graph paper. I don't know how big that thing is. I tried doing some of that in the very early days. So, interestingly enough, in the very early days of Pathfinder, kind of before the role-playing game when we were just kind of building the world, I had this really cool Bien Fang notebook. It had like lines on one side and sketch paper on the other side. And I started doodling and sketching and writing notes for lots of parts of our world. And this is where the first sketch drawing of Gallowspire came from. And it's also the first place where I did a sketch drawing of how the Starstone Cathedral worked and how the bridges worked and how that whole area worked. And it was kind of interesting. That was really influenced by Farford and Grey Mouser. They have an entire story where they're in a city with a bunch of wannabe gods, and they're all fakes and frauds. And I was like, well, what if we have something like that in Galarian, but it's real instead? Like, instead of being a fake and a fraud, you could actually become a god. So that's kind of how some of that married together with the mythology of the Starstone. But I always knew that the Starstone Cathedral itself was this mythical place, and no map would ever do it justice. So at the same time that I'm like, wow, I'd really like to take a crack at mapping that, I kind of don't ever want to. I don't know. It's kind of a not answer, but yeah, that's pretty high on my list.
Now, when you mapped it, you would always have to continuously remap it, though, wouldn't you? So wouldn't it be the best and worst of both worlds?
Yeah, exactly. Either that or I do it in one of those maps that comes on like cogs and wheels, and it like all spins and moves around, and it's just like all over the place. There's 50 maps, but it only has 4 floors. You just whenever you move between floors, it's a different map. Yeah, I have no idea how it would work. It defies logic.
I think we lost Ryan again. Next question. From... Oh my gosh. Okay. Do you ever think we're going to see the Tarrasque in Pathfinder featured?
I don't know. I think the Tarrasque is always kind of a... he's there to serve as the giant, big super monster, but he's not really great at that role. If you fly, you can kind of ignore most of him. He can throw, which at the level where you would face him, if you're not flying, you've done something wrong. So he's never quite lived up to the hype. I think he's really hard to kill. I think he's a great story piece of him just stomping around destroying things, and you have to find a way to stop him. But in that regard, he's more of a force of nature than a monster you have to fight. So I know that there have been stories about the Tarrasque. There have been adventures about the Tarrasque, and there's really only one adventure you can tell with the Tarrasque, so I'm not sure that we'll ever do it, just because it's already kind of been done. But then again, I wouldn't say never, right? There are lots of spawn of Rovagug that aren't the Tarrasque floating around in our world. So who knows if one of them might ever get out.
So Jason, before we go any further, since I get the impression we're kind of on borrowed time with this connection, I think it's about time we announce the contest that we've been planning together for the last little while.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we are, No Direction and Jason Bulmahn are combining forces for the Know the Man contest. It's hashtag KNOW, as in No Direction, as in the, THE, and Man, MAHN, as in Bullman.
That damnable H. Get the H right. This is my crusade.
I think I've mistyped your name more than any other person that works for Paizo, and I apologize.
It's a long and storied legacy of people misspelling my last name. That H moves around more times than I can count.
More than the I in Paizo?
Oh, yeah. No, the very first time my name ever appeared in print, Eric Mona misspelled it. So it's fine. You're in good company. You're fine.
That's ironic because his name is the name I misspell the other most often time.
Let me guess, C instead of K?
Yes.
yeah, that'll do it. The Know the Man contest.
Yes, hopefully by the time this contest is done, people will know where the H in Man is.
Well, those who hope to win will.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is that Jason, like he mentioned about EN World writing an article about everything he's tweeting, is kind of everywhere at once. And if you're not...
Ryan, we're losing you.
Oh, my goodness.
Information about Pathfinder...
See you in a second, Ryan.
And you can see his frustration.
Oh my goodness. The edit time
All
on this
right,
episode is reaching
all
epic
right.
proportions.
Can you hear me at all?
Yes.
Yeah, just kind of bouncing in and out.
Yeah. Jason, do you feel comfortable? No, you can't.
Okay, just
I can hear you.
reconnect, man. You always get at least a few
You
minutes.
can hear me grumbling? All right.
Well, a little.
No. All right, so wait, whoa. Hope it works. Hope it works. Hope it works.
Hello.
Ryan, quick,
Hello.
do the spiel.
Yeah, no time for pleasantries. All right,
Yeah.
between now and May 9th, tweet and post on Facebook using the hashtag KnowTheMan with an H, and tag 2 or more gamer friends or family to follow Jason, encouraging them to follow Jason on Twitter and Facebook to get all the latest news and insights on Pathfinder. You get 1 entry into this contest for doing so using the hashtag, and then you get 2 entries for every friend that you link who successfully likes the social media platform that you've linked to, which means that if you use 2 friends for each social media platform, you can have a total of 10 entries in the contest. On May 9th, we will raffle off some prizes, which have been curated by Jason Bulmahn. And Jason, do you mind going over the prizes and
Yeah, sure.
why you selected some of them?
So first off, I have 2 social media platforms we're targeting for this, Twitter and Facebook, both of which are just shy of 4,000 followers. Twitter just overtook Facebook. I've never thought that would happen. But in this case, both of them are really easy to find. At Twitter, it's at Jason Bulmahn or at Jason Bulmahn, so JASONBULMAHN. I got the H in the right spot. And then Facebook is facebook.com/Jason Bulmahn, same spelling. So the more people we get signed up, the more followers and friends that I get, the better the stuff I'll give out. So just for running this entirely, I'm going to throw out I will mail out a copy of Pirate Loot and the expansion to 1 lucky winner. Pirate Loot is a card game I designed a few years back and funded through Kickstarter. So it's a fun, light, cutthroat card game for 4 to 6 players. Actually, for 2 to 6 players with the expansion. So I'll be giving out 1 copy of that. For every 200 followers I gain combined between the 2 platforms, I'll give out another copy of that game. Once we hit 1,000 followers, then it'll be every 500 after that. So there'll be plenty to give out. And then in addition to that, I'm going to do 1 grand prize. And the grand prize starts out as just a copy of the Pathfinder first edition rulebook signed by me. And that prize will grow as we hit certain milestones. I'm trying to remember what the milestones are. I don't have them in front of me. So
We have them here. Is 4K. If you hit 4K total, you'll include a copy of Crypt of the Everflame.
Yes. Very hard to find now. In print, that module is basically impossible to find now. I have a stash of them, and you get one of my personal copies that I will sign and send to you.
At 500 new followers, you said that you would put those architect skills to use and draw a unique dungeon for the winner. And they get to keep it.
I will draw a dungeon map for you. I will ink it, and I will send it to you along with your prize pack. So the dungeon will be one of my design. I'll just create a dungeon. You can put whatever you want in it, but I will draw an interesting map for you on a handy sheet of graph paper. I will ink it, and you can keep the original.
At 1,000, you said that you will make a 2nd edition character for the winner, released in August.
Yes. So I will make if I get 1,000 new followers total across both platforms, not 1,000 on each, just 1,000 total. I will make for the grand prize winner I will make your first Pathfinder playtest character, and I will include it in the prize package. Or I may ship it later because I don't want you to have to wait for the rest of the prize. So I'll figure it out.
At 1,500, you said something about you'll include a copy of your first ever published work.
Oh, yeah. I'll throw in a copy of Dungeon 114. There aren't very many of those left either. And that issue sold out a long time ago, I think. So I'll include a copy of Dungeon 114, and I'll sign that as well.
And 2,000 was you will add a copy of the second edition playtest rulebook.
Yes. So at 2,000 2,000, I will include, and you know what? Let's just go ahead. We're going to make it a special edition version. I'll get a special edition version. I will sign it, and I will send it to you in August when that releases. So if I hit 2,000 total between both, that seems impossible to me. I can't imagine we'll hit it. And if we do break that, I'll come up with more stretch goals that'll be even crazier. I don't know what. I'm willing to take suggestions.
Excellent. So get out there and help boost this follower count. Remember, it's hashtag #KnowTheMahn, MAHN, and tag.
Yeah, and make
friends.
sure to link my the social media platform of your choice and throw your friends at it. So it's just kind of to get the word out there. I share a lot of news about the game. I link to all of our articles and stuff. So I tend not to spam it. I'm not just throwing up random bits of advertising or anything like that. It's usually either nerd stuff that I find interesting or Pathfinder related stuff in particular. So that's what I use my social media for, is to kind of spread the news about things that I find interesting in the game industry. So the more the merrier. I should note all of those physical prizes, except for the grand prize, the Pirate Loot games. It's really, really expensive for me to ship those overseas. So those are U.S. only. If you do win and you're overseas, maybe if you wanted to throw $10 my way, maybe I'll ship them to you. Otherwise, I can also give you like all of my Minotaur Games PDFs, and I'll just give you the entire library for free instead. That's worth about $35 or $40, so it's about the same value. So we'll figure something out.
And that
I don't want to put you on the hook for anything, but I do want to say I have an idea for Canadian addresses, and I'll bring that up to you off the show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we could probably work out Canada. That's fine. Yeah.
I was going to say that the Minotaur game PDFs includes your really cool take on the Minions concept, which we interviewed.
Yes.
That was a good PDF. People should go check that out, even if you're not winning the contest. It was a really good book.
Yeah, there was a couple of those have done really well. People really like them. That and Gem Magic. People really like Gem Magic as well. So I do have my own imprint called Minotaur Games, playing off the Bulmahn bit. Anyway, did you just get that? Please tell me you didn't just.
I've
get
had
that,
like
Ryan.
red strings on a map, and it's like Bulmahn, Minotaur Games.
Now I see. All right, no. So Minotaur Games is kind of my private imprint. I've published some Pathfinder PDFs there. Pirate Loot was technically a Minotaur Games product. I've also got a small campaign I'm working on that I've been working on forever. That'll be published through Minotaur Games called The Edge of Eventide. That's a thing I'm funding through Patreon. I haven't actually released a part of it yet because I kind of got sidetracked with this game design thing I've been doing at work. So I'm hoping to actually release a part of that here later on this year and hopefully get it all out before Pathfinder 2nd Edition hits. So we'll see.
All right.
And actually, James Valiant was asking, are there any plans for future Minotaur Games releases or announcements?
Well, right now, I got to be honest, I'm really busy. Between the day job kind of demanding an awful lot of overtime, we're busy trying to get the book ready for the printer and stuff. I just don't have a lot of time to work on other side projects other than some freelance. So I'm always trying to do kind of more stuff. I know most people see me as the Pathfinder guy, and I've done a lot of Pathfinder stuff, so that's a well-earned reputation. But I do try and branch out. I did some work. I've done some work for D&D in the past. I've done some work for Shadow of the Demon Lord. I'm currently in the process of writing an adventure for the Star Trek RPG. I did some work. Oh yeah. No, I love their system, and the guys at Modifius are a lot of fun, and I just wanted to play in the Star Trek world, to be honest. I like to branch out and try different things. I did a fair amount of design work on Starfinder, but yeah, so I'm kind of all over the place. But yeah, I don't have any plans to do any additional Minotaur Games PDFs right now, except for the Edge of Eventide, and that's the big thing I want to do, which is this giant. It's like a micro campaign where characters are provided, and the story that you play is about them. So unlike, in a normal campaign, you kind of get together and you make your own characters and you go on this adventure, but the adventure isn't necessarily about the characters. It's the story that the adventure wants to tell. A good GM will wrap your characters into it and make the narrative kind of involve them. But Edge of Eventide is really me creating a bunch of characters and then creating a narrative that is about those characters. This is their story. You can't put other characters in it. It wouldn't make sense. So that gives me some really exciting opportunities in storytelling that I really am looking forward to showing some people. And I just need to carve out the time to finish it. So hopefully the summer will allow me the opportunities to get that thing rolling.
Speaking of carving out time, it is 5 to 10 o'clock. You
All
have been very generous with your time. Do you think we can try and just lightning round for the next 5 minutes and see how many of the remaining questions we can get out?
Let's do it.
All right.
Woo.
Darren Kaldemeyer wants to know if we will ever see the 54 spirits that Mark Seifter wrote for the medium class.
We just had a talk about that today. I don't know that we're going to find a good place for them. I don't know. I need to figure out something with them, even if it's just a PDF or something. I don't know. Right now, there is no plan, but we are still talking about it. They are not forgotten.
If you made it a weekly blog post, you would have a year of material.
That's right. Yeah. We could just the spirit corner, we'll call it, and it's just more and more. It's just endless.
Do you feel your time with Living Greyhawk? Oh, this is probably going to ruin the lightning round, but it's a good question. This is from Night Trace. Do you feel your time with Living Greyhawk has direct influences in what would become Pathfinder Society?
Yes. Yeah. Well, both Eric and I came from Living. He helped launch the campaign, and I helped run it after he had moved on to work on Dungeon and Polyhedron for Paizo. So I think both of us come from such a background of organized play, right? Both of us played in Living City, both of us played in Living Jungle, we played in a lot of those early Living campaigns, and then we helped launch and run Living Greyhawk. And you can't help but learn a lot from an organized play campaign like that. It taught us a lot about what to do, what not to do, what pitfalls we could just kind of avoid and sidestep. Like there was a point in time where we thought the Pathfinder Society might use magic item certificates, so you had a certificate representing each magic item. And we were like, no, that's terrible. You get to the end of a scenario and everybody fights over who gets what, and it just isn't a good idea. It's great to have an actual certificate for a magic item that you can trade around and stuff, but the end of the scenarios just turned into a mess, and then you end up with these weird magic item brokerages where there are people who collect them and then trade them and do these strategic trades, and they're always looking for value add. It's ridiculous. So there's a lot of things that we learned from early organized play that made it into Pathfinder Society. But that said, there have been a lot of people making Pathfinder Society what it is today, and Eric and I just kind of helped set some of the seeds. But Tanya in our office is great and amazing, and John Compton and their entire team just does great work managing the organized play process, getting that thing working, and coming up with ideas that we never would have. So, I kind of leave that to them these days. They're the experts now, and all of my ideas are antiquated and old. Like, oh, you still did that? Oh, all right. Thanks, Grandpa. Get back to your design hole. It's fun watching it go, and watching so many people so passionately engage with our organized play, and watching the people who run it who have really made it their own. It's really, really kind of magical.
Speaking of magic, Zergtite99 has another not as specific question. It's
right.
Wizards. Will they be preparing spells per day? For each spell slot, or will it be more they're preparing right out of a spell book every morning?
Well, we still have Vancian spellcasting, if that's what you're asking. I think they still have a spell book. They still study their spell book every morning, doing their morning preparations, and that puts their spells in their mind, and then they cast them out of that. Obviously, we also still have spontaneous casters and things like that. So some of that stuff hasn't really changed. Mm-hmm. I think much of that you will find very familiar.
Yukichin 51. Will barbarians be less?
Will barbarians be less math heavy?
Yes. Yes. One of the things that we moved away from in general was adjusting your ability scores on the fly in the middle of a game. Like, doing that always was a recipe for watching the game slow down to a crawl. So when the Barbarian rages, instead of adjusting his strength and con and changing all of the statistics that come with that, it's now a more direct series of just bonuses on the things that you really want anyway. So it's a lot easier to manage and calculate.
That's why almost all of my Barbarian players are like, they have like 3 character sheets. It's like, am I raging?
Yeah.
Am I power attacking? Am I grown?
Yeah, there'll still be a little bit of that. But it's so much more straightforward now to handle and manage, right? It's add this number. Okay, we're done. Let's go, right? I'm raging. That's what I get, right? So it's a lot more straightforward to handle.
Jason, do you happen to have a D10 near you?
Do I? I'm a gamer. Of course I have dice near me. Actually, let's see here. Hold on. Wrong drawer.
So I ask because there's 10 questions left. I think we've got time for one more. So let's let fate decide what that one will be.
Sure. 1.
Oh, all right. Lone Dwarf. What people think they want and what they actually want. Oh, that's not a question. That's a comment.
Then
And that means I'm
2.
rolling again. 7.
Sure. 7. All right. Zerg Titan 99. Would I be able to play a chaotic good paladin of Milani?
Boy, that paladin argument, every single time people love to get into very vicious debates about paladin alignment. I'm going to say this. Alignment is still a thing in the game. Paladins still have to pay attention to alignment. That's still something that's important to them. I think the thing that I'm most excited to talk to people about is how we have modified the Paladin's code to actually speak to reality and not be so inflexible that the characters are a pain at the table. I can't tell you how excited I am about how that code is written, to the point, and this is what I'll leave you with, a Paladin can lie if he has to. If it will save people's lives, if it is for the greater good, he can look you straight in the eye and lie. And it's awesome.
My whole worldview is broken.
Yeah. It all comes down to the code, and you have to follow the code. The code is the way that you live. But that code now actually has guidance in it. It isn't just a bunch of strictures that just say, nope, you have to do this. You can never lie. You can never talk to an evil person. You can never, there's a whole ton of things that you couldn't do. Like, oh, I can't associate with an evil person. Well, that made a lot of stories not work, right? It's like, oh, well, I have to go into Cheliax and I have to negotiate with these people. Drawing out my sword and murdering everyone is not really an option. I have to negotiate with these guys, so I guess I'm going to need an atonement after this. Was never really an acceptable way to run a paladin. So we're really excited about that. I don't want to spoil any more than that. There's lots of great stuff about the paladin, but that's one of the things that I am most excited about by leaps and bounds. It is great. I love paladins. I always have, and this makes them really fun and dynamic to play.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, I just want to leave you with this. I really enjoy your haircut. I've been looking at you all night, and it's just like, yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, it's come out okay. It actually looks on this stream pretty good. Pretty happy with that.
So, where can people catch you at con season this year?
Sure. So right now I'm actually in a small bit of a break. We got done with GaryCon and Gamma, and that was really busy, back-to-back shows launching the game. So I got a little bit of a break right now, which is good because we're busy trying to get the book ready for the printer. But right after that, we've got PaizoCon coming up. That'll be in the very end of May, beginning of June. And then I do another back-to-back show. I leave PaizoCon, and the very next day I fly to the UK for UK Games Expo. Mm-hmm. So if you're here in the States and you make your way to PaizoCon, you'll get to see me there. You'll get to see us running the new version of Pathfinder there and talking all about it. If you're over in Europe, swing by UK Games Expo. We'll be there in force, running the game, showing off the game, talking about the game. So those are our next 2 big hits. We've got the team going to a lot of different shows this year. We'll have design team members at Origins Games, where we'll be showing off and running demos there. If you're once again back in the UK and are at Paizo PaizoCon UK. We'll have somebody at that. And then, of course, we'll be at Gen Con in full force. Most of the company will be there, and we'll be releasing the playtest adventure. And so, that'll be a madhouse. So one of the things I do want to stress to all those people listening, if you do want to make sure you get a copy of the Pathfinder playtest, please make sure that you pre-order by the 1st. Either go to your local game store and let them know you want a copy, or order through Paizo.com. Get your order in by the 1st. We are going to make sure that we print enough of these to make sure that everybody who wants one gets one. But we can't do that if you don't tell us that you want one. So go to your game store, go to Paizo.com, place your order. That's the only way we know how many to print. Last time we didn't print nearly enough, and a lot of people didn't get one. As a matter of fact, I hoard the ones that I have most preciously. They're back around here somewhere. But, we don't want to repeat that problem this time around. So we want to make sure everybody gets one. So make sure you get out there and pre-order.
And he means May the 1st for those listeners who might be backdated.
Yeah, May the 1st. So, you've got, from the date of this recording, you've got about 3.5 weeks.
Sir Scott a lot in chat is double checking it's the same cutoff for FLGS's pre-order.
Actually, with your FLGS, you may want to go in a little early because they have to talk to their distributor. So you may want to go and talk to them at least a week early. You might want to talk to them in the next week or two. To be on the safe side.
As somebody who has run an FLGS and had to negotiate with distributors, that is sound advice.
Yeah, it takes a little bit to negotiate with them about what you be. So they need to get their information to us by May 1st, which means they need to hear from the stores before that, which means you have to talk to the store. So.
Excellent. Well, thank you once again, Jason, for joining us. You've been generous with your time. You've been generous with some really cool items that you'll be raffling off. And if anyone did not catch the rules, you can re-listen to the episode when it comes out. We'll also summarize them on the website to make sure that it's clear. And we'll also link to Jason's social media, his Facebook page and his Twitter account.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it, Jason. Come on. Come on. Until next time, I'm Ryan Costello.
I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Param.
And if you want to find the path, you need no direction.